Before I explain anything, look at these four forks and pick one. Do not think. Do not analyze. Do not try to figure out what any of this means yet. Just look at all four and choose the one your eyes keep going back to. Got it? Good. Because that choice you just made was not random. Your brain made that decision in less than a second. You did not plan it. You did not sit down and compare them carefully. And that is exactly why it matters. Because the fastest choices we make are often the most honest ones we ever make. When you think too long, your brain gets in the way. It starts trying to look smart. It starts choosing what seems right instead of what is true. But when you choose fast, before logic wakes up fully, a much deeper part of you speaks. The part that does not perform. The part that does not pretend. The part that simply knows. Carl Jung, one of the greatest thinkers who ever studied the human mind, believed that beneath everything we show the world, there is an inner world running quietly all the time. It shapes who you trust without knowing why. It shapes how you feel walking into a room full of people. It shapes which direction you lean when life puts a choice in front of you. Jung called this the unconscious. And one of the most interesting things he discovered is that the unconscious speaks through images and symbols, not through long explanations, not through careful reasoning, through a quiet pull, a feeling of recognition you cannot fully explain. That pull you just felt toward one of these forks is not about design. It is not about which one looks most practical or most expensive. It is something else entirely, something that lives deeper than preference. Each of these four forks reflects a different way of moving through the world, a different relationship with safety, with emotion, with intensity, with peace. And the one you chose right now is showing you something real about where you are in your life at this exact moment. Hold on to your choice. Because what comes next may tell you something about yourself you have been carrying quietly for a very long time. If your eyes went to first fork, the long classic one with the clean, simple handle that does not try to be anything other than exactly what it is, there is something very specific about the way you move through life that this choice is showing you. This fork is steady. It is reliable. It does not stand out in a loud way. It does not demand attention. And if you were drawn to it, those same qualities almost certainly live inside you in a deep and real way. You think before you act. When people around you are reacting fast with big emotions, you're often the one who pauses. You look at the situation from more than one angle. You do not like being rushed. You do not make decisions in the middle of chaos if you can avoid it. You feel most like yourself when things are clear, when you know what to expect, when the ground under your feet feels solid. People around you sense this. They come to you when things fall apart. Not always because they say it out loud, but because they feel safer near you. Your steadiness is something others lean on, even when they do not realize they are doing it. That is a quiet kind of strength. It does not announce itself, but it holds everything together. Now here's the part that takes a little more honesty to look at. Somewhere inside you, beneath all that steadiness, there's a part that wants more, not in a greedy way, in a quiet, almost embarrassed way. A risk you've been thinking about, but not taking. A door you've been standing in front of for a while, but not opening. A version of yourself you can almost picture, but have not let yourself step into yet. You keep choosing the safe path, and it has served you. It has helped you build things at last. But there are moments, usually when everything is quiet, when you feel it, that pull towards something you keep calling not the right time. Jung would say this tension is one of the most important ones in the human mind. The part of you that wants stability is not wrong. The part of you that wants more is not wrong either. They are both real, and they are both asking to be heard at the same time. The first fork is not asking you to become reckless. It is asking you one small but important question. Where have you been choosing what is comfortable instead of what is actually true for you? What is the one thing you keep almost reaching for that your careful mind keeps talking you out of? Even the most reliable fork on the table was designed to reach out and take hold of something new. If the second fork drew you in, the flat, clean one with barely any curve or decoration, almost brutally simple, you move through the world in a very efficient and very specific way. You are practical. You like what works. You do not need things to be beautiful if they are useful. When there's a problem, you go straight to solving it. You cut through noise and find the point and go there directly. You do not like drama. You do not like long, unnecessary conversations when the answer is already clear. People trust this about you. They rely on your judgment. They know that when you take something on, it will get done. You are the one who keeps moving when others are frozen. That is genuinely powerful. But here is what the choice of this fork quietly shows beneath all that efficiency. At some point in your life, you learn that emotions slow things down. Maybe you watched it happen. Maybe someone made you feel that feelings were a problem to solve rather than a part of being human. And so you got very good at staying in your head, at focusing on what needs to be done, at keeping yourself functional. What did not get as much space was feeling. Actually sitting with something uncomfortable instead of immediately fixing it. Letting an emotion exist without turning it into a task. Jung believed that nothing in the human mind can be ignored forever. When you push the emotional side of yourself aside in order to stay useful, those emotions do not disappear. They wait, they build up slowly, and after a long time, they start showing up in places you did not expect. In tiredness that never fully goes away. In a flatness that appears even when everything on the outside looks fine. People who choose a second fork are often carrying more than anyone around them knows, because you are so good at holding it together. Others assume you are always okay. They do not check on you the way they check on others. And maybe you have been a capable one for so long that you have almost forgotten it is allowed to not be okay sometimes. If this fork called to you, something inside you is asking for a moment, not loudly, just quietly and patiently. It is asking you to slow down, not because something is wrong with you, but because you are a full human being, and full human beings need more than efficiency. They need to feel. They need space where they do not have to be useful or strong or fine. You are allowed to set down the task. You are allowed to feel something without solving it. That is not weakness. That is the part of yourself that has been waiting for you to come home. If the third fork stopped you, the bold, unusual one with the mechanical, tactical handle, the one that does not quite look like it belongs next to the others, and somehow that made it more interesting to you rather than less, you are not someone who fits inside a simple description. Most people looked at that fork and moved past it quickly. It felt too strange, too different, but you stopped. Something about it pulled you. And that pull is one of the most honest things about who you are. You are drawn to depth. You are drawn to what is real and what has weight to it. You are not satisfied with surface answers. You want to understand things fully. And when you commit to something, whether it's a person, a goal, or belief, you do not give half of yourself. You give everything. That is rare. There are people who move through life touching many things lightly, never going too deep. And then there are people like you who find something that matters and stay there completely, who love with everything they have, who feel things at a level most people never reach. But here is a shadow that comes with that kind of intensity, and it is worth being honest about. When things are not fully working, the urge to walk away entirely can feel overwhelming. When a relationship gets complicated, when a dream starts to feel distant, your instinct is either to push through with everything you have or to let go completely. The messy middle ground, the still worth it, but not perfect middle, can feel almost impossible to stay in. Jung spoke about the shadow as the parts of ourselves we have not fully looked at yet. For people who choose this fork, that shadow often holds a quiet fear. A fear that ordinary is not enough. That if you are not intense or different or deeply felt by someone, you will somehow matter less. But your depth is not something you have to prove through extremes. It is already there. It has always been there. It does not need a dramatic moment to be real. If the third fork called to you, your inner world is asking you to practice something that does not come naturally, not to become less of who you are, but to discover that depth can live in gentleness too. That intensity, when it is patient, does not burn what it touches. It warms it. You were made to be different, but you were also made for the everyday, fully present, fully honest, fully yourself in the regular, unremarkable moments too. If the fourth fork is the one that felt right, the one with the soft curves and the gentle wide handle, the one that somehow felt warm even though it is made of hard metal, your inner world is guided by something very real and very powerful, even though the world does not always recognize it as power. You value comfort. And before that word gets treated as something small, let's be completely honest about what it actually means. Choosing comfort is not choosing weakness. At a deep level, comfort means harmony. It means wanting the life you are living, the people you are near, and the spaces you move through to feel peaceful, breathable, safe. That is one of the most honest things a person can know about themselves. People who choose this fork tend to have a very strong inner sense of what feels right and what is not. You walk into a room and feel the energy of it immediately. You know quickly when something is off, when a relationship is costing you more than it is giving you, when a situation is quietly asking you to be someone you are not. And your first instinct is always to move toward what is gentle and away from what creates friction. This makes you very good at keeping peace. You are often the one who finds the right soft word, who makes others feel seen and comfortable, who holds space without asking for much in return. You create warmth wherever you are. That is not a small thing. To the people lucky enough to be near you, that warmth is everything. But here is what lives quietly beneath it. And this is where the fourth fork gets really honest. Because you want harmony so deeply, you sometimes stay quiet when your own voice needs to be heard. You absorb tension from others so the room can feel calm. You agree with things you do not fully agree with because disagreement feels dangerous. You adjust yourself in small ways, constantly, for everyone around you, until sometimes you're not sure where you end and where everyone else's needs begin. Jung would say this is worth sitting with, not with blame, but with real curiosity. When did keeping the peace become your job? What happened that made your own comfort feel less important than everyone else's? Because here is the truth inside the fourth fork. Underneath all that gentleness, there is something with real strength. You are not fragile. You have just learned to be careful. And those two things are completely different from each other. When something truly matters to you, when a line has finally been crossed one too many times, when a moment arrives that is too important to let pass quietly, you surprise people. A clarity comes out of you that no one expected. A voice that is quiet but completely certain. And it is powerful exactly because it is not used constantly. If this fork called to you, the question your inner world is sitting with right now is a gentle but important one. Where have you been making yourself smaller so the space around you could feel bigger for someone else? Where have you traded your own truth for someone else's comfort? You deserve softness. You deserve ease. That is completely real. But the most lasting kind of peace is not the kind that needs you to disappear into it. It is the kind where you are fully present, fully honest, fully yourself. Now here's the part that ties all of this together. Your choice was never really about a fork. It was a small, honest mirror held up to a very specific moment in your life. Not your whole life. Not forever. Just right now. This week. This version of you moving through the world with a certain energy, a certain need, a certain question that has not been fully answered yet. The first fork speaks to the person who is steady and careful, and who is quietly standing at the edge of something they've been afraid to reach for. The second fork speaks to the person who is capable and efficient, and who is slowly learning that feelings are not obstacles. They are information. The third fork speaks to the person who feels things at a rare depth, and who is discovering that their intensity does not need be extreme to be real. The fourth fork speaks to the person who creates warmth everywhere they go and who is beginning to remember that their own voice was never meant to be the quietest one in the room. Not one of these is better than the others. They are simply different places on the same human journey. Jung believed that the goal of a human life is not to be perfect. It is to be whole. And whole means all of it. The careful parts and the bold parts. The emotional and the logical. The intense and the gentle. The part that wants to protect itself. And the part that is finally ready to grow. Most people spend their lives developing one or two of those sides very deeply and leaving the others waiting quietly in the background. This test does not create anything new about you. It simply shines a small light on what is already there. On which part of you is speaking loudest right now, and which part has been patient and quiet, waiting to be heard. Think about the fork you chose, not just how it looked, but how it made you feel when you first saw it. Was there instant recognition? Like looking at something familiar? Or did it feel more like a pull towards something you have been missing? Both of those reactions carry something true. If your choice felt like recognition, you are being shown the strength that already lives in you. But ask yourself whether leaning too fully into that one side has been keeping you from growing into the rest of yourself. If your choice felt more like longing, that matters too. Sometimes we do not choose what we already are. We choose what we are becoming, what this next chapter is asking us to develop. Either way, something inside you chose that fork for a reason, and that reason is worth your full attention. So here's the final question, not about forks, about you. What part of yourself have you been too busy or too careful or too comfortable to really look at lately? Because whatever it has not gone away. It found a quiet moment, like this one, to get your attention through something as simple and unexpected as 4 forks on a table. If any part of this felt true, drop in the comments which fork you chose and what part of it surprised you most. Because your honesty might be exactly what someone else watching this right now needed to hear today. The path to understanding yourself does not always start somewhere dramatic. Sometimes it starts with one fast, unplanned, completely honest choice, and the willingness to actually pay attention to what it is trying to show you.